A committee of MPs has issued a damning report on the way the government awarded contracts for extending high-speed broadband to rural areas. The Public Accounts Committee accuses the Department of Culture of mismanaging the £2.5 billion project and says BT has exploited its near-monopoly position as the main provider of the technology. The report also warns that consumers are getting a raw deal because of a 2-year delay in completing the programme, which won't now be finished until 2017. Here's our political correspondent, Robin Brand.
Broadband rollout to rural areas is a major part of the government's push to update Britain's infrastructure. But the MPs say that ministers failed to deliver meaningful competition, which meant prices weren't as low as they could have been and coverage wasn't as widespread. They also criticised BT for not being more open about its costs, something they say meant that there's a serious risk to value for money. BT has won 26 contracts with local authorities. It's expected to win all the remaining 18. The Department of Culture said it put in place a fair commercial process with 3 firms bidding in the end.
BT has said the report's findings are simply wrong. Speaking on this programme, the company's Group Strategy Director, Sean Williams, denied that it was abusing its position to destroy competition.
It's completely untrue. We're not exploiting any position at all. We're investing over £3 billion to roll out fibre networks in rural Britain and across Britain. When they're built, it'll be available for all of our competitors. We're being completely open about our costs. And when it's done, the UK will have the best superfast broadband network in Europe in 2015.
It's widely accepted that getting a decent, fast broadband service to rural Britain is vital, not just for people trying to live there, run small businesses there, but for the country's long-term economic well-being as a whole. The government acknowledges that, but it's been accused by the Public Accounts Committee of MPs not only of mismanaging the programme to provide broadband in rural areas, but allowing BT to exploit its monopoly position. The committee says the rollout will be delayed for 2 years and people who live in rural areas are getting a raw deal. I've been talking to the Minister with responsibility for the programme, Ed Vaizey, and to the Labour MP who chairs the committee, Margaret Hodge. I asked her what's the evidence that the project had been mismanaged.
It set a contract in such a way that BT ended up becoming the monopoly provider. It has invested £1.2 billion of public money, some from council taxpayers and some from the taxpayers, in rolling out this superfast broadband in rural areas, which we all think is important. The costs have shot up. We looked at the comparison of costs between the UK and Ireland, and the subsidy in the UK is 3 times as great for each little cabinet than it is in Northern Ireland.
The cabinet being that little bit we see on the streets that actually provide the signal. Yeah.
And then I think most important of all, when Jeremy Hunt launched the programme, he said virtually all customers in rural areas would access broadband. In fact, what's happened is BT is now talking about only providing it in 90% of areas. Just think about this from the point of view of the very remote farmer who's being told by government that the only way he can get his EU subsidies is online through broadband. Yet because of the mess that's being made in the rollout of this superfast broadband, he won't be able to access the broadband he needs.
Right, Ed Vaizey, that's quite an indictment.
It is an indictment, but it's completely wrong. So it is true that we are investing £1.2 billion in superfast broadband. It's not true that the costs are out of control. BT's costs stack up. They put the money up front. We then pay invoices when BT present them. So we will see all the invoices that BT present.
The fact that they put the money up front doesn't mean they're not charging too much.
Yeah, but the National Audit Office made it clear that we have robust procedures for value for money. We will audit every invoice and we won't pay invoices that we think are unfair. But I don't anticipate
John,
BT trying to pull a fast one.
BT is only putting up a quarter of the money. The second point, it's true looking at invoices. But if I tell you in Cornwall it's 18,000 invoices that local authorities got to go through, it's a ridiculous way of assessing the costs. When you have an estimate from a builder, you don't wait for the invoice at the end. You get the estimate up front, which tells you what they're going to spend on those things.
Well, Cornwall was a programme that the last Labour government did, where, funnily enough,
This is not partisan.
where BT won the contract, and nobody has questioned BT's value for money in delivering superfast broadband either to Cornwall or indeed to Northern Ireland.
Are we saying, let's be quite simple, without going into minute detail, that BT have been ripping off the country, in effect? Yes or no to that, Margaret Hodge?
Yes.
Right, all right. So, Edward, that is a very serious allegation.
Yes, and my answer is no, they are not ripping off the country. BT is providing great value for money. They are putting up more than a third of the costs of rural broadband. We are going to deliver 90% superfast broadband. That was always our target. It's also
it was 100%, wasn't it?
No, it's untrue to say that was our target. If you read what Jeremy Hunt said, we always had a target of 90%. That is the target we are going to achieve. We're about to consult on how to get to the last 10%. It's also not true that BT are preventing local councils from sharing information. In my county in Oxfordshire, the information about where broadband is going is open. It's on the internet. It's a matter for local councils how they want to share the information.
So, well, you got it all wrong, Margaret Hodge, in effect.
There is a complete disagreement on the facts. BT said they would put up to £1 billion of their own investment. When we looked at this in my committee, they've put in just over 300 million. So they're putting in a quarter, less than a quarter of the actual cost of putting in superfast broadband. I've had representations from people in Cumbria, from people in Lancashire, who are desperate to know which postcodes BT are covering so that they can make alternative arrangements for where they...
but look, that's inevitable. If it's 90%...
No, but they're being told,
yeah.
John, they are being told that BT is refusing to allow those postcards to be revealed. And the only reason they can be doing that is that they are so determined to maintain their monopoly position, they're hiding the information so
All
that
right,
no
let's
other
deal with the
competitor can
question
go in.
of monopoly. Why, Minister, why should BT get all the work?
Well, if you look at who provides broadband infrastructure in this country, there are basically two companies. It's BT, which has the old telephone network,
Yep.
and it's Virgin Media, which has the old cable network. Providing broadband infrastructure, it's the same as building a railway. There aren't many companies
So why
that can do
BT
it.
having the lot?
Well, the key point about BT is that the rules for taxpayers' money going into this scheme means that your network has to be open to all your competitors. Virgin Media didn't want that. BT's network is already open. We have some of the lowest broadband prices in the world. There are 60 or 70 companies that are providing your listeners with broadband using BT's network.
So therefore, Margaret Hodge, entirely reasonable that BT should have the monopoly.
Again, there's a complete disagreement here. We had evidence from other providers who said that the way the department had designed the contract kept out competitors.
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they?
No, but a cross-party committee were completely convinced the areas were too small. Secondly, the technology favoured BT. And the third thing was that because the government went away from virtually all, which we all take to be 100%, to 90%.
We did not do that.
All right, let's leave that.
It made it easier for BT
Not going to agree on that.
compete. So
All right,
I'm
look,
afraid
fine. All
we
right.
really strongly feel that.
All right. What is going to be the effect of this, Margaret Hodge, and make it short if you would? Somebody lives in a village miles away from another, they can't get a decent broadband. What's going to be the effect on that person of what you say has been happening?
Too many people will not be able to access superfast broadband because BT will have failed to deliver it to their homes, and the taxpayer has been ripped off with £1.2 billion going to the shareholders of BT.
Ed Vaizey?
BT is delivering under our scheme to 10,000 homes a week now. It will deliver to millions of people over the next 2 years with the best value for money government-sponsored broadband scheme you will find pretty much anywhere in the world.
But how many people will not get a superfast broadband to their homes or their businesses within the next couple of years, as they believed, rightly or wrongly, they were promised?
We had a 90% target.
Which will be completed?
At the moment, we are looking at completing that in early 2016, but there's already an independent report out, which we had nothing to do with, which says we're very likely to hit our target. The pace of broadband rollout is increasing every week, and I'm confident we will be very near or at our target to get broadband to 90% by the end of 2015.
And it could have, should have been done much more cheaply.
No, I don't think we could have done it more cheaply. I think BT is providing value for money, and we have very robust procedures to make sure that's the case.